By virtue of the authority conferred upon me, I constitute this assembly a congregation of the University of Cape Town.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
Saphala linyembezi sono sala andumzela madoda yizela manina ewe kaloku lemini bikathi xa lifikile kudibene isizwe nentanga sizofuya sivuyisana lasongoma laqheqesa labaneka ladlula labiswa nelakhe igama wangumpumelelo nompumelelo mola wena ntsikelelo mola nawe nontsikelelo uthi mathi ngunqa ndomphele ndityityimbe xa ndibona abazali kathi ndiyabona zompokotho zishukuxekile ngoba imfundo le ifuna iqhoshe ngenamtunja bhotani ninesithwala nje nanizidwangube khululani ibhatyi zenu namkeleke kulo mzi wase-UCT nxatsho ke kunibandlezana ndini nxatsho ke kunimakroti nanimakrotikazi sibamba ngazo zozibini sithi kamakhu ngoba livumeleka kathi kamakhu amadenga wetyala makwedini ndiwagawula ndiwarhuqa ugabuti washo umuntu omlambo uthi thiba umsuthu umjobi enyansula wetshentshe yeah.
Please stand for the singing of the national anthem. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to invite Lance Lai August of the SRC to read the university dedication.
At this time of celebration, we, the members of the University of Cape Town, reaffirm our mission to nurture rational and creative thought and free inquiry, to strive for excellence in teaching and research, to educate for life, and to address the challenges of our society. We undertake to advance these ideals in a spirit of freedom and responsibility and through consultation and debate. We celebrate our benefactors, those who have built the fabric and nourished the values of UCT. To those of you who will graduate today, we wish courage, wisdom, and purpose. To those who will leave the university to learn and work elsewhere, may you be sustained by those values which unite us here today and advance them in the world beyond. A love of truth and of learning, and of this, our university.
Thank you. You may be seated. We are delighted to invite opera singer Sipogazi Molteno George to perform at today's ceremony. The performance is dedicated to both today's graduates and to Mrs. Machel. Sipogazi.
Search high and low, follow every byway, every path you know, climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find your dream, a dream that will need all the love you can give. Every day of your life, for as long as you live, climb
amazing, amazing. I bet the next time you hear that, you'll have paid for it. These are our students, ladies and gentlemen. All the performers that you saw today are our students. We didn't hire them. They are homegrown. We are so lucky. Let me introduce them to you. The procession was led by the phenomenal and energetic Sky Dladla and the Black Roots Marimbas, an ensemble from Guguletu, made up of South African College of Music students. Black Roots has just returned from a 4-week tour of Maputo, performing and doing marimba workshops with Mozambican artists and children. The poem of praise, Umbongo, was done by Sange, who's our graduate, and you saw her going in her regalia. Thank you very much, Sange. The national anthem was accompanied, you'll clap at the end, don't worry, we'll give you a time. The national anthem was accompanied on the organ by the incredibly gifted Alexios Vikatos. Alexios is currently studying a PhD degree in the field of X-ray crystallography in chemistry, and his publication was recently selected by the journal ChristEngCom for the editor's collection focusing on polymorphism in molecular crystals. Alexios helped restore the City Hall carillon, which he often plays before symphony concerts and on commemoration days. Alexios is doing all this. He hasn't studied music. He's came to UCT to study science, and he does this for us in graduations. Fantastic. And postgraduate student, Gyumiu Kim, who graduates tomorrow, accompanied Sipokazi in a rousing rendition of Climb Every Mountain from the musical, The Sound of Music. Gyumin has performed as solo pianist in the symphony orchestras around the country and currently performs in the hit musical Kinky Boots at the Fugger Theatre. Sipokazi is an award-winning mezzo-soprano who has already played leading roles in recent operas. Next year, you can hear her sing in UCT Opera School's production of Kosi van Tute in the Baxter Theatre. I told you, the next time you hear them, you're going to have to pay for it. Thank you so much for blessing us with your gifts. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is a graduation ceremony after all. We're here to celebrate wonderful achievements. And so, it's a full program, as I told you earlier. What are we going to do from here? We're going to call our guest speaker. We've invited Abbas Jamie. Abbas Jamie is an engineer, a futurist, a design thinker. He's also a proud UCT alumni, graduated with a BSc in Civil Engineering in 1988, and we are very proud to be associated with him. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Abbas Jamie to the stage to give a keynote address.
Thank you, VC. Did you see that small screen she was speaking from? Like tiny, like really showing up my age, right? She did that with no spectacles. I've got spectacles and I have a big screen, so. But thank you very much, VC. It is indeed an honor, and thank you for inviting me. It's indeed an honor to be part of this celebration of excellence today. So as the VC mentioned, I'm a design thinker. And the first thing you do as a design thinker when you get a task is you speak to the end user. And so I spoke to a few graduates, VC, and I asked them what would they like to hear today. And the message I got very clearly from them was, we're here to collect a piece of paper. Is that correct? Right. So I'm standing right now in the way of them and the piece of paper, so I'm going to be brief as possible. The title of my talk is Building Wakanda. Wakanda, the African city, home to Black Panther. We all saw the Marvel version of Wakanda. But what does the real Wakanda look like? Where will it be built? How will it be built? I don't know the answers to these questions, but what I do know is that the real Wakanda will be built by the youth sitting in this hall. The youth sitting in this hall will be the future shapers of our African cities. Moving into the future, Africa's youth is its biggest asset. I travel across the continent and engage with youth who are agile, ambitious, and they have an innovative spirit. This innovative spirit becomes crucial if you are going to navigate the massive disruption that is approaching us. So what I want to do in a few minutes is share some of my thoughts on 4 things that I believe will help you become better innovators, that will allow you to become disruptors instead of being disrupted. Firstly, you need to be deeply human-centric. We see big businesses that are global disruptors like Apple, Uber, Airbnb. They have built their business around having a deep understanding of their end users. The question is, how is human centricity in Africa different to human centricity in the rest of the world? Is it different? We see it's fundamentally different, not only from a geography perspective, culture, religion, language. So your job as people who will be building Africa's future cities is to ensure that we do not cut and paste from the West. When we bring solutions into Africa, when we bring systems into Africa, make sure it's through the lenses of Africa and appropriate for Africa. We have many examples of technology that has been brought into our continent that has failed. Not because it's bad technology. It's just that it was conceptualized in a very different world. So before you do anything, put yourself in the shoes of the end user. Before you draw that first line on the page, before you put that first number into the algorithm, put yourself in the shoes of the end user. When you have deep empathy for the people you serve, you will be less likely to implement inappropriate solutions. Now, this sounds quite obvious, but I can tell you as an engineer who's been in the industry for many years that as technical people, we end up designing according to codes and regulations, and so, sometimes with very little empathy for the end user. Secondly, if you want to be truly innovative, you need to embrace creativity. In order to be creative, you need to unlock that 4-year-old in you. That 4-year-old that was a fantastic artist, that 4-year-old that went to infinity and beyond. That 4-year-old that was always inquisitive, that was always asking why. Everyone in this room was at that point sometime in their lives when they were 4 years old. But then a strange thing happens. This inquisitiveness gets beaten out of you. And as we go through the education system, you become less and less inquisitive. And by the time you get to work, you don't ask why. So we live in this very technical world, the STEM world, science, technology, engineering, and maths. And then there's a whole different world of creative people out there, the musicians, the artists, the dancers. And these are very inquisitive people. And so what I'm saying is that if you can blend this technical world with this creative world, you will find a sweet spot where innovation can really flourish. So bring creativity into your hardcore technical projects. Bring creativity into your boardrooms. Bring creativity into your universities. Make creativity an important part of your ongoing learning, and you will become a disruptor. Thirdly, understand that the world is a complex space. Some of our country's biggest problems, like poverty, inequality, transformation, are complex, wicked problems. If we as technical and scientific people are going to make a meaningful contribution to these problems, we need to think beyond the codes and the regulations, beyond the size of the pipe, beyond the thickness of the slabs. We need to understand social complexity. We need to understand the role that politics plays in infrastructure development. We need to understand where the research money is coming from. We must not forget that the fantastic infrastructure that we have in South Africa that is world-class was used to divide our communities, and we still live with that legacy. Your role in the future South Africa will be to see how you can use infrastructure to bring our communities together. Social cohesion is a critical element of a successful and prosperous continent, and infrastructure and science will play a significant part in shaping this new world. And then finally, you need to spend time in the future. In future studies, we use the plural futures with the S, because there's always more than one future. You cannot predict the future, but you can be part of creating a desirable future. In order for you to do that, you are going to have to lift your head up from the codes and regulations, from the deadlines. You are going to have to look into the future. You have got to spend some time looking forward and dreaming. What does Wakanda look like? Because make no mistake, if you cannot visualize it, someone else will visualize it for you. And that's when you get disrupted. In Marvel's Black Panther, the power of Wakanda comes from vibranium, an alien material that they keep secret from the rest of the world. In my future vision of Africa, the real vibranium of this continent is sitting in this hall. The youth of Africa is the real vibranium of our continent. And in my future vision, we do not keep our vibranium secret. We unleash it onto the rest of the world. So to successfully innovate for a better society, you need to bring these four elements together. It starts with a deep understanding of your end user or the citizens of our country, followed by thinking systemically about their problems. Then using creativity to come up with some crazy ideas. And finally, coming up with a solution that contributes to a desirable future. We're talking about new knowledge that you co-created with your end users. So in closing, to quote another Marvel superhero, with great power comes great responsibility. Understand that in the next few years, you will be sitting in a position where people will be looking to you for the solution. People are going to be looking at you to come up with a plan for how we are going to build Wakanda. This is a position of extreme power. You will have the power to influence what our future cities look like. Understand you are extremely privileged to be sitting here today. Now, I know for some of you, the journey getting here was more difficult than for others. But everyone sitting here had their own journey, their own story, their own hardship. Whether that was financial hardship, family issues, personal issues, you all traveled a different road, and it was not an easy journey. But you persevered, and you made it here. Your future in the most unequal society in the world looks extremely bright. Wherever you end up, make sure you're making a positive contribution to our communities, to our country, and to our continent. The future of Africa lies in your hands. Go forth and create a better future. Go forth and make us proud. Go forth and build Wakanda. I wish you success. Congratulations.
Thank you, Abbas. Abbas says your future is bright. Of course, we are here gathered today to celebrate achievements of 280 exceptionally talented individuals from the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment and the Faculty of Humanities. And they'll be receiving UCT degrees and diplomas. Did I miss the faculty? Science, sorry. Faculty of Science and EBE, right? Apologies, the scientists are about to... As you can see, I'm doing all the graduation ceremonies. I've got the best job in the world, so I miss up faculties. I'm delighted to be here for this important occasion and glad that each one of you is here to join us. Family, friends, UCT academics, professional and support staff, members of council, I saw Professor Shelley Zinn is here, members of the UCT Leadership Lekgotla, and especially our newest graduates. It's a wonderful moment. Graduations are memorable events. They remind us of the struggles that we've had and how great it is to get to this point. And so they represent a promise. As exciting as they are, in the nature of things, the future is uncertain. You are here today, poised at the knife edge between what you have achieved over the past several years and what you will make of yourself in the years to come. But you are not alone, because we as a university today, we mark a moment of transition in the life of our university as we bid farewell to Mrs. Graça Machel. She has served the University of Cape Town for the last 20 years. And so before we proceed with the graduation ceremony, we would like to give you a glimpse of what Mrs. Machel has meant to this university. We've prepared a video, and it's going to be on the screen. And we're going to ask the platform party to stay on stage, but some of us are going to go down as the video goes on, just to see what Mrs. Machel has meant to us as a university.
Former Mozambican Education Minister and humanitarian Graça Machel has played a pivotal role as Chancellor of the University of Cape Town over the past 20 years. Her journey began when Dr. Mampela Rampele was Vice-Chancellor of UCT.
My job as the then Vice-Chancellor was to transform the university. And if I wanted to have a different profile of a chancellor, you couldn't find a better person than Graça Machel. She was a woman, African woman, strong on education, but also very personable.
The inauguration of Graça Machel as Chancellor of UCT in 1999 was a joyous occasion, with her husband and former President Nelson Mandela proudly supporting her.
We have had some fine chancellors before, but she was the woman for the moment. She brought to it all her grace and charm and wisdom, but also that huge strength.
Over the years, she's presided over many graduation ceremonies and inspired and encouraged graduates.
There are extraordinary life stories which are amongst us. Let us tell them. Let us make sure that they inspire others. And at the end, it cultivates the pride of being South Africans, of being Africans. Thank you very much.
I think beyond just having done the formal duty of captain, every young person that she graduated there has left with a sense of, I am important, I can succeed.
UCT's position as the leading university in Africa, together with Chancellor Machel's high profile, also helped to attract the interest of alumni, donors, and potential donors.
She was a very wise counsel and also assisted the university a great deal in raising funding and financing and support for the university and students. And there were events that were organized specifically around her activities. So she leveraged her international networks and contacts a great deal.
During her 2 10-year terms of office, Chancellor Machel supported 4 vice-chancellors, Dr. Mampela Rampele, Professor Njabulo Ndebele, Dr. Max Price, and Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng. Chancellor Machel has been very supportive during their time at UCT.
Drawing on her experience as a Minister of Education and in positions of governance, she offered wonderful insights and was a fantastic support to me personally and to the university.
The UCT community could also rely on the Chancellor's experience and advice.
I think that her reasoned statements and the way she brought support to the university was a very great asset.
The Chancellor was a vital sounding board during the protest years of Rhodes Must Fall and Fees Must Fall.
She was very supportive during the tumultuous period of Rhodes Must Fall, engagements with a person of that experience and background and knowledge and all of that was always going to be important and useful, but she never put herself out there in the front line to engage with those, but provided good, sound, sober counsel in the background.
There have been many special times as Chancellor. The Graça Machel Hall was named in her honor and symbolized her support of young women. In another memorable event, Chancellor Machel organized for the Chilean president at the time, Michelle Bachelet, to speak at a forum for UCT. During the launch of the 4 Women by Women scholarships in August 2018, held during National Women's Month, Chancellor Machel welcomed the new Vice-Chancellor, Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng, and pledged their support for women students.
And we are thrilled that this institution is now led by a brilliant and beautiful, exceptional young woman. And she brings this sense of renewal, which you can feel in campus. There's really energy of transformation. We want our young women not to know, but to feel that here is a grandmother and there is a mother. You are allowed to soar your wings, but you are grounded at the same time. And we want you to know these shoulders are for you. And I thank you all.
Chancellor Machel was present for the robing ceremony of Professor Phakeng as Vice-Chancellor and has continued to be a steadfast support.
Mom Graça Machel has been really phenomenal in terms of her support. But in 18 months, her impact has been huge. She's been really impactful in the way that she has engaged and held the community together, lifted us up out of our sad times.
It was most notable following the tragic death of UCT student Uyanene.
If we are here in solidarity with this beauty of unity, in our pain, we have to pledge to do something. Yes, we'll start here in our campus, in our tertiary institutions, but it's a call for all South Africans. This is not the country we fought for. This is not, we wanted our people to be afraid to be looking at their shoulders when they are moving around. No. And we have the power and the capacity to change this.
I still have vivid memories of how, without a written text, took to the platform and carried that entire community. And that was leadership that is priceless for an institution.
Over the past 20 years, students who've met and interacted with the outgoing Chancellor say they've been inspired by her.
We've seen how the university senior leadership has opened itself up and the university up, in ways that a motherly love can transform spaces. And for me, that's one of the other lessons to be taken from Graça Machel. Power of love, the power of hope, and the power of listening.
Following 2 decades, Chancellor Machel leaves a huge legacy and has earned a fond farewell.
Graça, my sister, I'm so proud of you. And I love you so much for all that you represent for us and women in South Africa, in Southern Africa, in Africa, and in the world.
The university has had the benefit of 2 decades of your chancellorship and leadership. We thank you for that.
I will forever be moved by the way you lifted us.
All of us who have any connection with UCT owe you an enormous debt of gratitude for all that you have brought.
Your presence on this campus for the last 2 decades has made the world of difference. You have made a huge impact, primarily through your fundamental respect for the dignity of each of us as human beings.
Thank you for everything that you've done for our university, for who you have been.
I'd like to say shukran. Thank you. Nkosi yam, Mama.
that was extraordinarily meaningful. Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Graça. Ma'am Graça Machel has not been a traditional chancellor at the University of Cape Town, and that has been to our advantage. Previous UCT chancellors were usually visible only at ceremonies like graduations. Ma'am Graça is the first woman and the first Black African to be appointed to this position in UCT's 170-year history. And unlike her predecessors, she has not been content to sit on the sidelines of UCT's life. From the start of her service as Chancellor, she has motivated the change. At her installation, she said that we must become producers of knowledge in order that we shall be able to use our freedom to break the chains of poverty, ignorance, and disease. Her life is a testimony to her strength. She was born in Mozambique's southern Gaza province in 1945. She excelled at school and distinguished herself by winning a place at Lisbon University. However, she was later expelled because of her political activities against Antonio Salazar's dictatorship. She worked underground as a militant for the Front for the Liberation of Mozambique, Frelimo. During the country's war for independence from Portugal, Frelimo set up schools in liberated territories and in their training camps in Tanzania. During this time, Ma'am Graça was appointed Deputy Director of Frelimo Secondary School at Bagamoyo, Tanzania in 1974. Later that year, at the age of 29, she was appointed State Secretary of Education in Mozambique's interim government. When she married Samora Machel, the following year, she was Minister of Education and Culture in the first post-independent Mozambican government and the only woman in the cabinet. In the first 5 years, she cut literacy by 22% and more than tripled the school-going population from 400,000 to 1.6 million. She held that position for 11 years. Ma'am Graça brought a similar passion to her role as Chancellor at UCT. She has stood with us at our most vulnerable times as our mother, our elder, our conscience, our champion, and as the guardian angel of the residence that was named after her in 2007. She has been an outspoken advocate of change for women in every society, a constant reminder that we have the power to create the change we want. This year, she stood with us when we mourned the murder of UCT first-year student Uyinene Mkhotyana. Her message, once again, was that we have the power to change our world, to stop the tragedy of gender-based violence. As Chancellor, she has been an important part of UCT for 2 terms, through 20 years, supporting 4 vice-chancellors, Dr. Mampela Ramphele, Professor Njabulo Ndebele, Dr. Max Price, and myself. By aligning her name and reputation with UCT, she enhanced the global reputation of this institution and all our staff and students. I want each of us to take to heart her words. Our freedom, and I quote, "Our freedom is producing excellence. South Africans, we have all the ingredients to succeed. It is up to all of us to join hands and to make it happen." And I close quote. I have been engaging with her to give a lecture at UCT, the Vice-Chancellor's lecture, so we can sit at her feet one more time and catch another glimpse of her warm heart. We are finalizing the arrangements and will inform you when that event will hopefully take place, perhaps in the first half of 2020. Ma'am Graça, on behalf of a grateful, an incredibly grateful and motivated community at the University of Cape Town, I thank you for inspiring us to fly high, to be proud of being African, and to be game changers in our world. Thank you very much, Ma'am.
Vice Chancellor, faculty, council represented here, administrative staff, students, graduates, family, friends, sponsors. I am a woman in gratitude, in deep, very deep gratitude for the privilege, the honor which I had to serve this institution for the last 20 years. For some of you, you might not have a sense of what the 20 years mean. But when you are at my age, you count every day as a blessing. And you give value to what you learn, what you absorb, what enriches you. You don't take life for granted anymore. So I've been thinking, reflecting on how this institution has enriched me, how it made me a more humane human being. I'm not leaving UCT. I'm taking UCT with me. Because what have been lessons of life to transform me as a human being, it is going to be inside me and to guide the rest of my life. 1999, when Mampila, Dr. Rampeli Mampila, became the first woman, black woman, to be the Vice Chancellor of this institution. And soon after, I was asked to take up the position of Chancellor. We became, in this country, in fact, on the continent, the first institution to have 2 black women at the helm of a tertiary institution. I'm mentioning this not to say that we are exceptional. I'm mentioning this to say this institution has taken upon itself the responsibility to reflect the transformation required to a South Africa which was coming out of the traumatic experience of apartheid. And having 2 women, first women, and 2 black women at the helm of institution, it was a strong message to say this institution cannot be the same anymore. I'm reflecting on how much we have managed to transform as deep as we would have wanted. And with humility, I have to say, I learned also that transformation is extremely complex. Transformation, it's a long process which will never be complete. So we can count that we have amongst our students the diversity which we have achieved. And perhaps I should remind some of you who do not know. Dr. Rampeli Mampile had to establish what was called the bridging courses at this university to make sure that students coming from the Eastern Cape, from our townships here, students who had never been in a library. They had to be guided to go to the library of UCT and to know how do you look for information, how do you organize your studies using a library. We had students who hardly could articulate properly their thinking in English, and they had to be guided in English lessons just to know how you express yourself and how do you write complete and clear sentence. We had students who were extremely weak in maths, so they would never be able to take engineering, they would never be able to take medicine, they would not be able to take even, business lectures. It was important to build at least in these three things: English, maths, and how to use a library. That's how we started. And this morning, I was sitting there. I was looking at the faces of the people who graduated in health science, those who did honors, masters, PhDs, and I could see the transformation, at least at the level of students and graduates, which we have achieved. The diversity in gender, diversity in background, because I can understand the names of who is graduating. The diversity, even in terms of age. They were very young, some of them. And I was imagining 20 years back, where were they? Who they were to be now graduating. And more importantly, it was one of the graduations with the most distinctions I have presided over. That is the present UCT is offering me in my time of taking you along with me. I think we still have a long way to go when it comes to faculty. Quite understandably, those brilliant minds who completed their PhDs, they are the first generation in their families to achieve that level. They're still struggling to have a host of younger brothers and sisters to educate. And they weigh between being an academic or going to business sector because of their social responsibilities. And of course, private sector pays better than academics, right? And we struggle still to attract the best of minds to remain with us as academics. We still struggle as well because, be aware, for you to become a professor, ask them, how many years it has taken you? 15, 20 years, right? It requires focus, it requires dedication, it really requires an option of life to become an academic. So I know everyone complains that, oh, we have not been doing enough. Yes, we haven't. But I have to say, for UCT to remain, after freedom, to remain the very best university in Africa, the best amongst the 20 best universities in the world, it means to know how to navigate transformation without compromising quality and excellence. And it is this faculty which has managed that. For me, what is important is that our faculty has managed to nurture the diversity of young Africans, South Africans' minds to take up the challenge, regardless of being, the majority, the color you have. What you have is the commitment to build this nation, to build this continent, to use your knowledge and expertise to make the transformation happen. And I want to say, I am at peace because I am aware the transformation has its own demands and it takes time. This was, if I address the students, it started here when students said roads must fall, and then the fees must fall movement, decolonization of education. It started in this university. That means UCT still leads in minds and action when it comes to transformation. Yes, we could have done also much better with the issues of gender-based violence. I take with me in my conscience a heavy, heavy responsibility that the face which has transformed into the symbol of gender-based violence with the Uyinene, it is our child at this university. The message was not that we are worse than anyone else. The message was UCT has to lead as well in how to educate young people, our young students. Not only to be brilliant in the way they learn and they research, but to question themselves in the way they develop a relationship with others, particularly relationships with the young men and young women. Uyinen was not murdered inside the campus. This is a societal problem. But the fact that she was one of our own, it was to leave that responsibility to say we have to take up the transformation of relations between men and women, which is a global challenge. And that is a global challenge which UCT is called to continue to lead. And now I come to say, I said I'm taking UCT with me. But because Unene is my grandchild, and it was down there, we all pledged to do something. I am here. I'm not going to leave whenever I'm required to give a bit of my contribution, particularly with young people, to say, how do we accept one another? How do we respect women? How do we protect women? That is the challenge of internal transformation which goes beyond institutions, which goes beyond the numbers which we are talking about when we talk of transformation. It requires transformation from inside of each one of us. And it's a long, very long process. UCT community, I can smile at the day where I am handing over the chair of Chancellor. As we started 20 years ago, Dr. Mampila and myself, today with highly qualified extraordinary dynamic, exceptionally brilliant young women, 2 young women, 20 years later. Precious Molloy, Professor Pacheng, are at the helm of this institution. What else could I wish for? So I smile. I'm smiling. It is a kind of a cycle which we started, and we are setting. I know there are other universities which also have chancellors and vice chancellors who are women, but we were the first. And not only we are the first, we are renewing the commitment when we give it to these young women to say, this is a university which will continue to be the best, not only in learning and research, but more importantly, in making this institution serve and serve better our nation, serve and serve better Africa, serve and be the face and voice of a tertiary institution globally. When they want to know what Africa can produce, they look at UCT. That is what we want to continue to be, and we are absolutely sure at the helm of this institution with the 2 young women who are leading it, and with this quality of a faculty, with what we are going to hear here as graduations who are coming, there's no doubt. We still have challenges, but we are absolutely at the right direction. Thank you for having enriched me and have made of me a better human being, a much humble human being.
Thanks, Ma'am Graça. Madam Chancellor, the UCT Book Award is given for a book authored by a member of the university judged to be of scholarly or literary merit and the best of the year. And Madam Chancellor, today I have the honor to present to you for the UCT Book Award for 2019, Professor Alphonse Zigoni of the Department of Civil Engineering. Madam Chancellor, Shell Structures in Civil and Mechanical Engineering is a seminal engineering book that has been authored by Professor Alphonse Zigoni of the Department of Civil Engineering here at UCT. It was published in 2018 by the Institution of Civil Engineers in London. In a review of the book, Professor Tim Ebel, Fellow of the Royal Academy of Engineering and past President of the Institution of Structural Engineers, says, and I quote, "It has been such a pleasure to read this book. Shell structures have so much to offer our profession, and this book demonstrates their extraordinary scope of application. It leads the reader rather beautifully through the increasing complexity of applications of shell structures, providing full derivations throughout to problems of real practical importance," close quote. Shell structures find application in many fields of engineering, notably civil, mechanical, marine, and aeronautical disciplines. Over the years, considerable effort has been devoted to the development of rigorous theories of shells. Professor Zigoni points out that such rigorous formulations usually lead to sets of differential equations for which exact mathematical solutions cannot be found. On the other hand, numerical methods can provide useful approximate solutions for these situations. In writing this book, Zigoni, a world-renowned authority on the subject of shell structures, has employed a unique strategy that allows closed-form mathematical solutions to be obtained for a wide range of shell problems. These solutions are highly suitable for practical calculations. They also permit the engineer to gain important insights on the behavior of the shell. It is this powerful approach that sets the book apart from other existing books. In the words of reviewers, the result is an extraordinary work that stands out above other books on the subject. Since publication, the book has gathered highly laudatory reviews from both academia and industry. It enjoys a diverse readership that is distributed across many countries across the world, including South Africa. Engineers of various disciplines have consulted the book in designing novel shell structures. Madam Chancellor, I invite you to grant the Book Award 2019 to Professor Alphonse Zigoni. Congratulations, Professor Zigoni. Madam Chancellor, the UCT Creative Works of Arts Award, Creative Work Award. Madam Chancellor, the UCT Creative Works Award recognizes the production of important creative work by a member of the university. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the 2019 UCT Creative Works Award, Clint Abrahams, lecturer in the Department of Architecture, Planning and Geomatics. Madam Chancellor, Clint Abrahams is an architect, an emergent academic at the school, and an emergent academic at the School of Architecture, Planning and Geomatics. He is the founder of Studio Light, a non-profit through which mutually beneficial relationships between communities and higher education institutions are explored for the emergence of socio-spatial restorative architecture. Abraham's Studio Light exhibition, entitled Makassar, Who Are We?, explores the reauthoring of socio-spatial narratives and how these can critically engage the post-colonial challenges of displaced humanities in South Africa, communities in South Africa. It counters dominant stigmatic narratives by retelling the stories of Makassar, a community blighted by crime and other socioeconomic challenges, to build community resilience amidst conditions of hopelessness and public mistrust. In 2016, with no civic institutional support, meetings held in Makassar, living rooms and backyards developed into a street photography project involving youth from the area. This built new relationships, trust, and appreciation for their community, framing a new story for the area. Using found objects to curate the photographic material, a nomadic spatial practice emerged to sustain the project. In 2018, community meetings were held to plan the hosting of an exhibition in the public library and 2 private homes. The installations were built as participatory spatial interventions, which resulted in shared common spaces for intergenerational dialogue. Stories by elders in response to images taken by the youth were included in the exhibition to instill new stories of hope and dignity. This intersection of altered perceptions and innovative spatial practice is imperative for thinking through interdisciplinary ways for different forms of practicing architecture to emerge. Practices that can allow us to imagine shared spaces that can disrupt the narratives of apartheid legacies which plague our displaced communities. This is the project's biggest contribution and has resulted in the planning of a shared space to allow the work to find permanence in the community. This year, the refurbishment of the community space, a collaboration between Studio Light, the community, and for universities is a testimony to the relevance of Makasa's story of resilience that change comes from within. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to invite you to grant the 2019 UCT Creative Works Award to Clint Abrahams. Congratulations, Clint. Madam Chancellor, the university's Distinguished Teaching Award, the Distinguished Teacher Award, given only once to an individual, recognizes teaching at any or all levels by a member of the faculty who has made a significant and lasting impression on students. It acknowledges the primary place of teaching and learning in the work of the university and marks sustained excellence in teaching. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the Distinguished Teacher Award for 2018, Professor Jeffrey Murugan, who's a professor in the Department of Mathematics and Applied Mathematics. Madam Chancellor, Professor Jeff Murugan teaches in the complex field of applied mathematics, quantum gravity, and string theory. He is renowned for his innovative approach to teaching, from producing podcasts of his lectures years before audio and visual recording of lectures became part of the scaffolding of students' learning, to taking his students on walks around campus looking for the shape of spiders' webs. His approach does more than prepare students for successful careers in a range of disciplines. In his words, he aims to imbibe in all his students a sense of wonder for the world around them by making mathematics an experiential subject. Knowledgeable and witty, yet acutely aware of the difficulties experienced by students in his classes, he has also made diversity a priority in his teaching and supervision programs. He has tested the use of different languages in his classrooms and lecture recordings, initiating a year-long study into how students would perform in courses where lectures were recorded and subtitled into one or more of the indigenous South African languages, and has been a constant innovator in the production of online learning environments. His inspirational influence on his students extends from first-year classes through to postgraduate research groups. An undergraduate student writes that Murugan, and I quote, knows the material well enough to spark an interest in everyone, making every lecture feel like an adventure, close quote. He has also had a significant impact on senior postgraduate students, cultivating groups of master's and PhD students to develop them into strong, independent researchers. Several students he has supervised now teach and research at institutions nationally and abroad. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to invite you to grant a Distinguished Teacher Award for 2018 to Professor Jeff Murugan. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for a Distinguished Teacher Award for 2018, Dr. Annalise Shawate, Senior Lecturer in the Department of Mathematics and Applied Mathematics. Madam Chancellor, independently nominated by her third-year students, Dr. Annalise Shawate, a member of the Mathematics and Applied Mathematics Department since 1992, has taught almost every major mathematics course in the department at all levels, from first-year undergraduate to honors. Although equally adept at teaching large and small classes, Dr. Shawate is arguably most valued for her contribution to large undergraduate mathematics courses, which require the management of large teams of lecturers and tutors and the teaching of several hundred students. Impeccable administration, thoughtful innovation, and a strong commitment to the academic development of her students has seen her turn problem courses into success stories. Dr. Shawate has a rare talent for presenting difficult content in a clear and logical way, while still conveying the plot line and narrative. With an infectious enthusiasm and a friendly, caring manner, Annelise guides her charges through complicated material, using examples and illustrations wherever appropriate, to masterfully connect the abstract to the concrete. In the words of a longtime colleague, and I quote, "Her lectures verge on the immaculate and her preparation is deep and thoughtful, but the results are illuminating and entertaining." Close quote. While another colleague points out that Dr. Shawate's teaching demonstrates a rare combination of a natural gift for teaching, commitment to all facets of teaching at a tertiary institution, constant adaptation and innovation, fair but challenging assessments, and a desire to help all students to fulfill their mathematical potential. Close quote. Chancellor, I have the honor to invite you to grant a Distinguished Teacher Award for 2018 to Dr. Annelise Shawate. Madam Chancellor, election to a fellowship is a singular honor recognizing original and significant contribution to knowledge. And I have the honor to present to you for a fellowship of the university, Professor Genevieve Langdon. She's a professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. Genevieve has made her mark in the field of impact engineering by focusing on the blast resistance of explosively loaded structures and materials. Most work on explosively loaded structures is limited to small numbers of expensive field tests on overly complex structures, or rely on substitute loading types such as air pressure, which cannot accurately recreate the conditions of a chemical explosion. In other cases, the work is classified by the military and seeks to answer a very specific threat. Professor Langdon's work seeks to understand the fundamental mechanisms driving response so that all structures can be better designed or protected from explosion scenarios, such as rapid depressurization of an aircraft, terrorist bomb attack, and landmine detonation or military incursions. Professor Langdon is recognized as the leading engineering researcher on the blast performance of lightweight structures and materials in South Africa. She is involved in extensive international collaborative research because of her expertise in structural blast response and blast experimentation. There are very few researchers in the world who have expertise in both blast experimentation and lightweight structures, putting Professor Langdon in a unique position to have knowledge that is recognized internationally in both areas of research. The other strength with her research is having a combination of modeling and experimental strengths, which gives her the capacity to advance knowledge using modeling and then test the ideas in the laboratory. Her work is published in the top journals in her field. She is an editorial board member of 2 international Elsevier journals, one on structures and the other on impact engineering. She is also the secretary of the International Society of Impact Engineering and a regular invited speaker at international research conferences. The contributions makes her a worthy candidate to be admitted as a fellow of the University of Cape Town. Madam Chancellor, I have the honor to invite you to award a fellowship to the University to Professor Genevieve Langdon.
By virtue of the authority conferred upon me, I admit to the degree specified and grant the diploma specified to the candidates recorded as in absentia. I shall now grant the diplomas and admit to the degree specified the candidates to be presented to me.
Chancellor, before 1994, UCT was complicit in practices that denied many staff and students full and dignified participation in the life of this university. These practices caused hurt, and as a reaction, especially in the period 1950 to 1993, increasing numbers of students declined to participate in graduation celebrations that ignored this hurt. The Council and Senate have invited students of that period who did not attend their ceremonies to attend a special re-graduation ceremony, in part to remind us of that history, in part to ensure that we listen to those who feel marginalized today, and in part as a restorative ritual. One such student has accepted the invitation for re-graduation today. Chancellor, I have the honor to present for re-graduation for the degrees of Bachelor of Architectural Studies and Bachelor of Architecture, Cedric Gerald Powell. Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the postgraduate diploma in project management, Polite Munyaradzi Nduru. Hanro Peter Rousseau. For the degree of Bachelor of Architectural Studies, Franco Thomas Barnes. Nkosinati Dlamini. Luis Kes Kesongo. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Construction Studies, Joshua Jack. Junaid Witten. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Property Studies, Asia Pierre Alexander. Evan Freilink. Kanyo Templeton Ngukana. Talon Dane Robertson. Joel Clive Smith. Jenna Stowe. Robert James Tweddle. Ivan Friedrich van der Merwe. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Chemical Engineering, Siyabulela Anda Lizo Majikija. Thabo Malachi. Tawanda Mutataguta. Katlejo Mpho Nsenjanamane. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Civil Engineering, Dharmesh Dukit. Mwenga Natsera Luboya. Galian Naika. Jared Elisha Nadu. Nikhail Samlal. Siabelo Mojale Seroalo. Rabelani Wendy Chikovokovo. Sianda Chobeka. Farai Justin Zimbizi. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Electrical and Computer Engineering, David Joshua Franch. Tafadzwa Dewa Moyo. Mick Ruben Perring. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Electrical Engineering, Felemane Felemane. Keenan Kyle Hector. Tawanda Ignatius Maseva. Jabulani Richard Masimula. Skumbuzo James Martine. Tambo Wandile Nondabula. Nizamuddin Rumani. Kwezi Malusi Sikubu. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Mechanical and Mechatronic Engineering, Yolanda Dolly Kumalo. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Mechanical Engineering, Tristan Allen George. Chad Frank Newell. Kashif Wilkie. For the degree of Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Mechatronics, Murray James Buchanan. Wasila Harris. Zanele Ntombenhle Kubeka. Imran Mohammed. Tinashe Edson Jr. Mushede. Andrew Nicol Scott. Mukhadi Setchekamolo. Sajjad Sharif. Richard William Simmons.
Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the degree of Bachelor of Science, Mulisa Badugelo. Roxanne Sarah Christine. Jean Arno Erasmus. Yongama Kiwi. Awande Sinenhlahla Gumbi. Ying Tong Wow. Benjamin Kilpin. Malefu Mambelupi Lituba. Nalutando Andisa Magubane. Dimpo Mangana. Matavela Mapolo. Stephen Derek Murray. Usisiwe Nozipho Mbewe. Tavisile Sipasetu Sibi. Jessica Ruth Mueller. Farero Pati Matebuli. Kema Joe Nail. Tsepo Stephen Ramaisa. Rimakatso Rineilwe Raputi. Ryan Reddy. Fahim Siddharth. Tsepiso Witness Sikapere. Professor Shabangu. George Nkosikona Mkulisi Tembe. Catherine Emma Vowles.
Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the degree of Bachelor of City Planning Honours, Danielle Grace Hill. For the degree of Bachelor of Landscape Architecture Honours, Orabila Adosias Chingapane. Sandra Zarufis. For the degree of Bachelor of Science Honours in Geographical Information Systems, Abdallah Mus. Tabo Daniel Nhlapo. For the degree of Bachelor of Science Honours in Nuclear Power, Julian Glenn. For the degree of Bachelor of Science Honours in Quantity Surveying, Jean-Marie Yannick Dallaire. Tarifa Mahed. Fabio Alessandro Ugo Saboretti. In radar and electrical defense with distinction in the coursework component, Kevin Gemma. In telecommunications, Mongeni Bebe. Mutsawashe Gahadza. In transport studies, Wilberforce Wanjau Chege. Ntombifuthi Ngobeni. For the degree of Master of Geotechnical Engineering, Sam Bira. For the degree of Master of Landscape Architecture, Mark Patrick McHattie. For the degree of Master of Science in Project Management, Deirdre Michelle Adams. Abel Benson Lungu. Molati Albert Nonyane. For the degree of Master of Science in Property Studies, De Villiers Brits. For the degree of Master of Transport Studies, Herbert Chirwa. With distinction, Philippus Stephanus Erasmus. Charlotte Wright. For the degree of Master of Philosophy in Civil Engineering with distinction in the dissertation, Mikhail Manuel. In Conservation of the Built Environment, Chimangadzo Israel Nemaheni. Tifoniwi Victor Nechiava. In Construction Economics and Management, with distinction in the dissertation, Christiana Okobi Ekbo. Amanda Alicia Mtia. In Energy Development Studies, Kotatso Mokele. In Space Studies, Tivere Hugbo. Adebayo Olotumbi Ogonyika. Barbara Apili Ojur. In Sustainable Mineral Resource Development with distinction in the coursework component, Leslie Kudakwashe Sabanda. In Transport Studies, Robert James Cameron. Bridget Tandekile Duze. In Urban Infrastructure, Design and Management, Anneline Basson. With distinction in the coursework component, David Duke. Elinekela Elias Nambinga. For the degree of Master of Science in Engineering in Chemical Engineering with distinction in the dissertation, Blessing Helen Chirume. Natasha Davids. With distinction in the dissertation, Dominic Kyle de Oliveira. Matthew Zingai. With distinction, Jonathan Nicholas Gertsen. With distinction in the dissertation, So-Man Kim. With distinction in the coursework component, David Daniel Kruer. With distinction in the coursework component, Donald Mjonono. Mohammed Hassan Moedin. With distinction, Bridget Mariana Nachel. With distinction, Herbert Simbarashe Nyakunua. With distinction in the dissertation, Zainab Sadan. With distinction in the dissertation in civil engineering, Alice Lindiwe Harvey. With distinction in the dissertation, Nicholas Richard Jarrett. Stefan Simon Makiese Masamba. With distinction in the coursework component, Amy Jennifer Moore. Seamus J. Levine. With distinction, Adam Mossam. With distinction in the dissertation, Pranava Naidu. Joanita Nabada Ndawula. In civil infrastructure management and maintenance, with distinction, Alpheus Musandwa Etumeleng Shabangu. In electrical engineering, Kingsley Oladipo Akpeji. With distinction in the dissertation, David Stephen Berliner. With distinction in the dissertation, Alexander Francois Blom. Kosivi Agbesi Fangbemi. With distinction, Giamo Liu. Moketsi Mafereka. Michael Tatohatsi Malape. With distinction in the dissertation, Lusani Mamushiane. Muhammad Noor Martin. With distinction, Misha Beno Mesachik. Samuel Semole Mponwana. With distinction in the dissertation, Lindani Prince Shelembe. Nadir Mohammed Boraji. With distinction in the dissertation, Ryan Evan Wolf. In geotechnical engineering, with distinction in the coursework component, Sanele Sizwe Nonhlanhla Precious Buthelezi. With distinction, Monica Linneo Damane. With distinction in the dissertation, Charles Sekwanda. In mechanical engineering, with distinction in the dissertation, John Sean Clark. With distinction in the dissertation, Abra Mohammed Hassan Harnaka. With distinction, Sean Crick. With distinction in the dissertation, Nyasha Nigel Mawire. Krista Nsanzinteko Nsanzubuhoro. With distinction in the dissertation, John Ogun Diran. With distinction in the dissertation, Sikliniseko Cullen Richmond. With distinction in the coursework component, Nkosilati Wundla. In radar and electronic defense, with distinction in the coursework component, Asif Ahmed Parker. With distinction, John Reynolds Swart. In water quality engineering with distinction, Tinashe Lebone Chipako. With distinction in the coursework component, Mohammed Jaffa Naushad Hussein Ghulam Hussein.
Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the degree of Master of Philosophy in Climate Change and Development, Christian Gerhard Hossein Kestner. Lucy Lavirode. Megan Courtney Swain. In Environmental and Geographical Science, Kelly Celeste Webster. In Environment, Society, and Sustainability, Robin Peter George. Elena Lott van Doren. In Information Technology, Stefan Drew. Michael Kraft. Katharina Maria Till. For the degree of Master of Science in Advanced Analytics, with distinction, Nicholas John Murphy. Andre Smith. In Applied Mathematics, Katika Juhi Ugobin. With distinction, Ruash Pillay Slayan. In Applied Ocean Sciences, in the Applied Marine Biology, Kim Kelly Hunt. Makabele Libukhang Batlakala. In Applied Ocean Sciences, in the Operational Oceanography, Matavo Notkolo Marange. With distinction, Sian Annie Mary Seymour. In astrophysics and space science, Stembile Temberani Dlamini. In biological sciences, Thomas Petrus Botha. James Andrew DeHorst. Michael James Fleischman. Joshua Paul Hendricks. Amy Leigh McIntosh. Litiro Judith Muloto. With distinction, Zainab Sheikh. Megan Smith. In chemistry, Luyanda Ketani. With distinction, Kelly Chisanga. With distinction, Nolwazi Sakiti Kwenza. Emma Jane Tiffin. Riabetsi Robin Zwane. In climate change and development, Pelamonzi Matikinka. In computer science with distinction, Johan Gerhard Bontis. Nick Kayokwa Chibuye. Gonizache Nicholas Chonga. Ching Lung Wang. With distinction, Webke Toysent. Chelsea Joy Waddle. In conservation biology with distinction, Carrie Ann Gray. Amy Miriam Hoffenberg. With distinction, Rebecca Peacock Mueller. Tinabako Ruth Lirato Nube. Clara Stein. With distinction, Olivia Fenton. Joshua Anthony Weiss. In data science, Cutley Blows. Lawrence Jacobus Labuscani. Stian Rue Marie. In environmental and geographical science, Sisanda Angeziwe Bekiswa. Tanya Duba. Astrida Kasango Lupia. Machia Lilian Maboya. Koketo Mulepo. With distinction, Elakari Mowell. In Environment, Society and Sustainability, Stephanie Laura Achin. Limukhang Mulibatsi. Pageant Nombuki Sonchalin Charlie. In geology with distinction, Juan Francois Duvet. James Joseph Stowe Lester. With distinction, Lorena Andrea Tafu. In mathematical statistics, with distinction, Stephen Robert Smith. In molecular and cell biology, Johann Hendrik Els. With distinction, Inga Peterson. Matthew James Robert Verbeek. In ocean and atmosphere science, Raquel Francisca Flame. Sibongile Prudence Maiwa. In physical oceanography, Elke de Jong. In physics, Rowan Justin Atkin. Kevin Nicholas Barnes. With distinction, Paromi Brian Maboko. Chapelo Given Mamicha. In statistical ecology, with distinction, Janika Punganavan. In theoretical physics, with distinction, Alexis Caitlin Mills. For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Mathematics, for a thesis which focuses on the application of theoretical and statistical methods leading to new constraints on an important class of modified gravity theories, Sulama Kandai. In astronomy, for a thesis which investigates the very low column density neutral hydrogen gas in nearby late type spiral galaxies, using radio telescopes in both South Africa and Canada, Amido Sogo. In biological sciences, for a thesis which gives clarity into the diversity and phylogenetic relationships of the sauropodophore dinosaurs that roamed southern Africa in the Mesozoic and provides insight into the evolution of the growth dynamics of the sauropodophore. Emil Darius Kurbadan. For a thesis exploring the history of marine fish parasitology in Southern Africa and assessing the viability of fish parasite distribution and its utility in fisheries research, Mohamed Azza Ifan Nanku. In computer science, for a thesis which presents a new approach to generate text in agglutinating Bantu languages by obtaining natural language descriptions from logical theories, demonstrating how the complex structure of Bantu languages can be computationally captured during text generation. Johan Jamugisha. Thank you. In environmental and geographical science, for a thesis which combines seasonal forecast and crop modeling to come up with farm management recommendations that improve climate variability management in small-scale farming communities, Siyabusa Mukutlani. For a thesis which explores the potential benefits of ecological intensification to improve food production systems and environmental sustainability in smallholder farming communities, Farirai Rusere. In mathematics, for a thesis which constructs new examples of constant mean curvature half surfaces in the product of the hyperbolic plane with the real line. By solving boundary value problems for the nonlinear mean curvature equations, Murray Brian Christian. In molecular and cell biology, for a thesis which explores genetic mechanisms driving evolution on a genome scale in diverse African plants and animals, from changes in gene regulatory networks and genome hybridization to various forms of gene duplication and somatic mutation. Stefan Atoni Slebush. In ocean and atmosphere science, for a thesis which contributes to the development of a novel instrument to measure phytoplankton dynamics, which will improve the remote sensing of primary production in climate-relevant Southern Ocean. Emma Louise Bourne. For a thesis which uses satellite observations and numerical models to study eddies and meanders of the Agulhas Current, Laura Valerie Breby. In physics, for a thesis which investigates the flow of dense granular suspensions in rotating drums with experiments and computer simulations, David Nicholas de Glock. In zoology, for a thesis which uses fatty acids and stable isotope tracer techniques, along with C2 experimentation to quantify the role of hippopotamus as vectors of tropic transfers in the St. Lucia estuarine system, Jessica Dawson. For a thesis which demonstrates that biological engineering by borrowing sand prawns overrides nutrients input to determine ecological functioning in intertidal sedimentary ecosystems, Weli Kwabe.
Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Architecture for a thesis which explores processes of co-production in urban sanitation infrastructure provision among multiple actors in informal settlements in Tanzania and interrogates whether emerging co-productive arrangements are indicative of an alternative form of city governance. Furawa Abwe Germain. In architecture and planning for a thesis which shows that land and housing practices in Namibia provide important lessons for how contemporary spatial production can be undertaken and theorized. Eduardo Guillermo Delgado Castaneda. For a thesis which shows how the persistence and growth of urban informality in the global south, and specifically in Mzuzu, Malawi, is due to tactics and strategies both within and between state actors as well as informal settlers. Mtafo Almiton Zeleza Chingua Manda. In chemical engineering, for a study of solution transport in packed rock beds, which combines theoretical and empirical work to establish a novel approach to describing heap leaching hydrodynamics. Alexei Cherkayev. For a thesis which determines crystal growth kinetics of diethylene ammonium hexachlororhodate 3 salt in 2 reactor configurations by way of the method of moments, and shows that crystal morphology of the salt can be manipulated by reactor configuration, Edmund Engelbrecht. For a thesis showing the determination of suitable phase equilibria for titaniferous slags and their use in the development of a beneficiation route to produce suitable feedstock for the production of pigments, Polisa Kamangu Goso. For a thesis which uses an inverse model system to investigate the promotional role of metal support interactions in cobalt-based Fischer-Tropsch catalyst prepared by modifying the surface of cobalt with silanes, Lebohang Macheli. For a thesis which focuses on the role of microorganisms attached to and growing on the surface of mineral sulfide ores in the dissolution of metals and other ions from these ores, Didi Klanti Makaula. For a thesis which evaluates under which circumstances small-scale biogas can be an appropriate technology to provide energy to urban Africa, Linus Nike. In civil engineering, for a thesis which shows that travel behavior is habitual and that, contrary to common conceptualizations of habit breaking, commuters seek information and deliberate on mode use change before the occurrence of a life event rather than after, Eric Ajayi. For a thesis which develops new insights in the potential of public transport-driven destination reachability and equity evaluation based on travel costs and time, particularly for low-income inhabitants in cities like Cape Town, Imointinyan Ivan Hinyo. For a thesis which employs discrete choice modeling and stated choice methods to investigate the take-up of short sea shipping in the SADC region, Abisai Hashokuali Konstantinos. For a thesis which develops a freight transport energy management tool as a simulation optimization-based decision support tool that addresses the full scale of complexities involved in the development of holistic, sustainable, and comprehensive government-level freight energy mitigation strategies, Tanya Elizabeth Lane. For a thesis which characterizes leakage in several bulk water pipelines in the field, using a specially designed test device, the latest knowledge on pipe leak behavior, and a novel theory for the time-dependent pressure behavior of leaking pipes, Rene Mateus Nzanzintoro Nzanzubuhoro. in construction economics and management for a thesis which shows that the adoption of technological innovations impacts the social sustainability and personal well-being of facilities management employees in South Africa, Unekwu Jonathan Adama. For a thesis which develops a hybrid intelligent uncertainty model able to estimate construction cost and time of infrastructure projects with a high level of accuracy, Alireza Mokhayedi. For a thesis which shows that unsubsidized market solutions to the low-income housing challenge are feasible, despite the adverse operating environment that is characteristic of developing countries, Bridget Gugulethu Taruvinga. In electrical engineering, for a thesis extending the application of the Herman-Beta analytical probabilistic approach for analysis of radial distribution and transmission power networks with distributed generation from renewable energy sources, Munyaradzi Justice Chihota. For a thesis which describes practical testing and finite element matrix modeling of transformers under conditions of geomagnetically induced currents to derive parameters for power system analysis and improve transformer reliability, Hilary Kudzai Chisepo. For a thesis which uses cooperative game theory based on a generalized Nash bargaining solution for microgrid energy management to provide fair profit allocation amongst microgrid participants with negotiation power, Ismail Oyeyemi Oladejo. For a thesis which makes the novel contribution of a comprehensive exploration and validation of various electronic countermeasure techniques and their effectiveness when applied to passive radar, Stephen Thomas Payne. For a thesis which shows that low-cost quartz GPS-disciplined oscillators are adequate to synchronize pulsed Doppler networked radars, and that the direct side lobe breakthrough could be used to improve the radar performance to near monostatic levels, Jacobus Stephanus Sandenberg. For a thesis which shows the effect of channel uncertainty in mobile relay-assisted device-to-device communication networks and offers relay selection techniques that are channel uncertainty aware, Uyota Etuk Eyota. In geomatics, for the design and testing of a framework to guide land tenure reform aimed at people living with insecure tenure in the former homelands of South Africa, such that the process and outcomes are significant, successful, and sustainable. Simon Anthony Hull. in materials engineering for a thesis which investigates methodologies for the incorporation of silver into a modified surface of titanium in order to facilitate an antimicrobial effect for use in orthopedic implants. Yusuf Vazirjan Zikas. For a thesis which uses temporary hydrogen treatment to refine the coarse cast titanium 6 aluminium 4 vanadium microstructure, investigates hydrogen promoted microstructure evolution at atomic resolution, and designs temporary hydrogen treatments that improve mechanical strength whilst eliminating titanium aluminium embrittlement. Velile Nicoline Villarane.
It was a beautiful ceremony, wasn't it? Amazing, amazing, amazing. And wasn't just wonderful seeing Joan walk the stage? Joan lost her sight at 18 years old, and it's wonderful to see her get her PhD in computer science today. Just phenomenal. Just a good example of not letting setbacks keep you down. What an inspiration. Congratulations, Joan, and everyone else who got their degrees today. And of course, I'm really glad that none of you fell with high heels. Thank you very much for practicing, because if anything happened, I have to take responsibility. Yeah. So congratulations. You graduates have reached a mountain top today. You persisted to get here, and we are so pleased to be part of your journey. But of course, you did not get here on your own. There are parents, family, friends, and loved ones who supported you through it all. And many of them are here in this hall. Some of them are broke because you're graduating today. They paid your fees, they gave you a stipend, you demanded a lot of things, and they just paid and paid and paid. And today, you're graduating. I want you to stand. Try to make eye contact with your loved one who's here in the hall. If you don't know where they are, just look to the right, to your right. They're probably somewhere there. And then wave your scroll to show your appreciation for their support. Fantastic, fantastic. Keep standing, keep standing, keep standing, keep standing, keep standing. Okay, this is the point where we check whether you still listen to the VC, so keep standing. Now, as much as your family supported you and paid your fees and did all the things that our loved ones do, you wouldn't be here if the academics were not there. These are the people who came to class. They prepared the lectures. Even when you were rude, they were there. They marked your assignments, the bad ones, the good ones. Please show some love to the academics on stage. Okay, okay. There's always a problem with this part, because I'm standing here, I can see there's always a group of people who don't do the appreciation to academics. I don't know. I really don't know what's the problem. Okay, let's clear this thing. Let bygones be bygones. You are graduating Oxalayo today. You are getting your degree. So let's not hold grudges. We're going to show some love. Listen, you're graduating today. You need a lot of friends from here on who will support you. Well, if you don't know, you're going to need reference letters. And these people on stage are the best people to write the reference letters. So show some love to the academics on stage. Okay, that was a 4 out of 10. That's okay. That's okay. That's what you get. I also want us to stand, all of us in the hall, because there are other people who are not with us. Some of them are not here with us today. But I want us to stand in all of our professional admin and support staff. These are staff members who house and feed our students in residences. They maintain our university campus and run our administrative processes so that all of us can get on with our academic work, whose outputs we are celebrating today. So please, let's put our hands together for all those staff members. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Graduates, before you leave the hall, I want to remind you of 3 things, just quickly. Your graduation is an achievement that not everyone receives. So I want you to take a deep breath, look around, and remember this feeling, and hold it. Hold this feeling, because there'll be many, many moments in your life where you will wish for this moment. This is your moment of power. And when things are bad, we call on our moments of power to remind us what we are capable of. So hold this moment of this great achievement that you have. But also remember that this achievement comes with a responsibility, because with great achievement comes great responsibility and great expectations. The responsibility and expectation that you will play your part. You will do what you can to help not only those that helped you get to where you are at today, but to help shape the future of our country and our world. The second reminder is that you are now a graduate of a great university called UCT. You were taught by outstanding world leaders. Yes, I said great university. I did not say perfect, because perfect universities don't exist. No university is perfect, but some universities are great, and ours is a great university. And great universities stand for truth, and the pursuit of truth demands consistent effort, because truth has to be discovered, revealed through argument and experiment, tested in the midst of opposing explanations and ideas. Note, I didn't say you shut it down. You shut down opposing ideas. I said truth has to be tested in the midst of opposing explanations and ideas. It doesn't shut them down. This is precisely the function of a great university. In our statement of values, we have committed ourselves to intellectual honesty, rigor in debate, openness to alternative ideas, and respect for other views, other ways of being, beliefs, and opinions. With the growing intolerance and polarization in our world today, my hope is that you, the UCT graduate, will serve as an embodiment of our university values as we go on to make a meaningful contribution to our community and the wider world. Finally, my dear graduates, let me be frank with you. Today is a wonderful day, and you probably had the best time of your life. Probably you're sitting there saying, I've had the best time of my life at this university. Or maybe this counts as the best day of your life. But let me be frank with you. The best years of your life are very much ahead of you. And they can be whatever you want them to be. Your work, your life, your weekdays, your weekends can all be filled with as much meaning as you dictate. As you go off now to start new jobs, or perhaps a new graduate program, or maybe you already have a career, or maybe 1 million followers on Instagram and you don't even need my advice. Whatever the next chapter is, define it by being true to your authentic self. Fill it with meaning. Make sure that you feel it with meaning. Define what success means to you. Because if you don't define what success means to you, someone is going to do that defining for you, and they will impose it on you. So make sure you define what success means to you. and then go on to pursue it ethically and well. And here's the last thing. Make sure you have fun. Life is too short. One day you'll be 60, maybe with a hip replacement, not able to climb mountains. So make sure you laugh, you jump, you do all the fun stuff that you can do in your life. Congratulations. At this point, you clap hands. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of our graduation ceremony, and after this announcement, I request you to stand and then remain standing to allow the procession to leave the hall. Graduates, please join the procession as it leaves the hall and proceed to the bottom of the stairs as far as University Avenue. Don't stand at the door because then people can move. But anyway, if you stand at the door, the pictures are not nice. They are nicer at the bottom, so keep going. That's where you'll get a nicer picture. Now I request you to please stand for the Chancellor to dissolve the congregation.
By virtue of the authority conferred upon me, I hereby dissolve this congregation of the University of Cape Town.